Thank you, Colin. It's raining. It's raining sparrows today. A storm of them around our feeder. Blizzard of gray and brown feathers. The rustle of their feet on the tin. The crackle of their feeding. Their song. My heart is breaking. Don't ask me why. But my eyes are filled with birds. That's from this book called The Horse Knows the Way. I'm going to read a few poems from it. It's called Eyes Full of Birds, that poem. Colin mentioned the section in The Horse Knows the Way called Imagine Life. Actually, it's all 100% accurate, as in this one, the tinfoil mobile. I remember so well the first time my parents made love after my birth. I lay in the bassinet, gazing open-mouthed at the tinfoil mobile my father had constructed and hung above me, while in the bed across the room my father and mother came together with a hunger I could appreciate, my father seeking a return to the shaded room from which I had so latterly emerged. It had been warm there, I remembered, and snug, though a bit banal and dull, and I wondered why he sought with such urgency to go there when I was here. I heard my mother cry out, as I knew I so often did, and later, while she fitfully slept, I heard her murmur. She dreamt first of my father, then of me, and I watched expressions sweep across her face as she foresaw the pleasures and pain that we would both bring her. Above me, the mobile danced in time with the rhythms of this spinning globe upon which we lived, just a concoction of the linings from packets of cigarettes twisted in various shapes and fishing line, almost transparent. How strange, I thought, these blind urges of men and women, and like my mother, I slept and dreamt of the man I would someday be. So before I go any further, many thanks to Colin Norton for inviting me, and to Rod Peterson for making it happen. Another poem from that Imagine Life sequence, The Chicken Coop. The house my parents had built for them went back to the bank. And we moved 3 miles down the road to a converted chicken coop, converted to a crude home. And that's where I learned first to crawl, then to walk. Later, we moved deep into an orchard of apples and pears, to an abandoned farmhouse with a pond and snapping turtles and eels. No chickens, but geese chasing the dogs with their eel necks curved. And it's here that I learned to run, to talk, that I became the first part of what I am. My father never overcame his sadness at the loss of their house, a house he'd first drawn on a napkin at the Automat on Lower Broadway. The house was gone, but he still had that napkin, crumpled in the dresser drawer where he kept folded money and his glasses. It doesn't matter how many new floors, how many coats of paint, he would complain over his glass of port. You never get rid of the stink of chickens. And he'd point an uncertain finger at me. Don't you forget that. It's who you are. Sisters from Space. Another poem that's completely true. When I was a boy, my older sisters were Martians. Tall, graceful creatures from a distant planet who had learned our language, learned to pass, fooling even my father and mother, but not me. They were not hostile, these aliens, one with her long blonde braid, the other with her books and laughter, but not entirely benign either. They had no need for force, for they could kill with a look, a word chosen carefully, no, carelessly, could maim. I learned the signs, knew when to take cover, how to defend myself, but still, they left scars. Eventually, as I grew older, they grew into themselves, allowed themselves to forget that other world they'd come from. The radioactivity that used to pulse beneath their perfumed skin cooled, but their power over me continues even now as we grow old. They may have forgotten who they are, but I haven't. In the dark, when they thought I was sleeping, my eyes were open. I saw them. This is called Becoming a Writer. What could be easier than learning how to write? Novels, poems, fables, with and without morals. They're all within you, in the heart, the head, the bowel, the tip of the pen, a diviner's rod. Reach inside and there they are, the people one knows, their scandalous comments, the silly things they do, the unforgettable feeling of a wet eyelash on your burning cheek. This moment, that, an eruption of violence, a glancing away, the grandest of entrances, the telling gesture, the banal and the beautiful. All conspire with feeling and passion to transport, to deliver, to inspire. Story emerges from this cocoon, a crystalline moment, epiphanies flashing like light bulbs above the heads of cartoon characters. All this within you where you least expect it, not so much in the head as under the arms, glistening with sweat, stinking with the knowledge of the body. The writer, neither practitioner nor artisan, but miner, digging within himself for riches unimagined, for salt. I'll just read one more from The Horse Knows the Way, the title poem. The horse knows the way. The horse knows the way home, and I, by the grace of God, know how to follow. Beneath us and before us, the road rolls out like a black carpet of blood, the blood pounding in our temples, whispering its own secrets. Behind us, a reflection from the city of light shines and shines. There is fear ahead of us, behind us, below and above, but sense only in the way ahead, sense and hope, the last refuge. The horse, like Frost's, shakes his head, but it is a dispassionate shake, a quiver of faith. He may question my impulses, but never his own. No, the horse, thank God, knows the way, and I know how to follow. So I'm going to switch gears and read a few poems from this new book, Dimensions of an Orchard. It just came out this summer. Babel. Religion was the language the serpent employed to whisper in Eve's ear, telling her delicious lies. Reason was the language God used to thunder his peak at the serpent for anticipating his next move. Adam resisted cynicism, a language whose time had not yet come. I'm going to read a sequence of sort of religious poems. I say sort of because I'm not at all religious, but I... Uh-oh. Uh-oh, I've been worried about this. Theology. A quarter moon hangs low in the morning sky, a thumbprint reminder that night is not through with us. Oh no, not yet. Day, night, light, dark, the cycle carries on with tedious regularity, each extreme laying a trail of clues leading inextricably to the other. The seasons, too, pass in their cycle, and the ages, infancy to infirmity, and through the transmogrification of souls, into infancy again, if that's what you care to believe. The tides rise and fall, the leaf buds, greens, browns, withers, all according to plan. And where do you suppose God is in all of this? Puppet master, enmeshed in his own strings, or tourist, folding and refolding a map? The creases are worn thin from this incessant folding, creating the illusion of unintended routes, a false cartography. Like any man, God is reluctant to ask directions. He batters on against his own idea of tide, seeking a way. Original sin. And you're probably getting an idea of what exactly this orchard is I'm referring to. The truth about Adam and Eve is not that she ate of the apple or that her husband was seduced into sin, but that over the years, some of the sweetness between them soured, like wine going to vinegar, and they didn't know it. Original sin was not their arrogance, but stupidity, blindness. There came a day when the taste in Eve's mouth was too bitter for her to accept, and she looked at Adam with new eyes. Adam, for his part, was restless, dissatisfied, but he didn't know its source, couldn't guess at its remedy. They blamed each other for what had become of their children, the dissolution of the garden, the anarchy of the animals. Adam cast about and couldn't bring himself to admit he loved her any less. Instead, he blamed the apple, just barely remembered. And Eve, as unwilling as he to acknowledge the weakness, cast her curse on the guileless snake, and the sin, if there ever really was one, multiplied. They were cast out, not from the garden, but from the holiness of their love. It hurt God to see them this way. Perhaps that was the sin. One more of these. The seventh day. Why was it God stopped? 6 days of labor and then nothing. So much done, so much still to be done. He rested, and no one would say he didn't deserve to. So much brilliance already to his credit. But it wasn't just a rest. He stood back, saw that it was good, and left the rest up to its own devices, let Darwin be his priest. That was cool. Things worked out all right. Some good, some bad. Just the way they might have with God's hand. But what was it that made him turn away after so much rapt attention? Had he squinted into the future? Seen something he didn't like? Did he blink? This is a little change of pace. The philosopher bear.